Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there o say dem yopo.
Alfred, the matter we are discussing is a very serious matter because it borders on the right to vote, which is an inalienable right. It is a non-negotiable right. The supreme law of the land at Article 42 of the Constitution, which you have already read, guarantees the right of every citizen 18 years and above to vote. And it says that every Ghanaian who is 18 years and above and of a sound mind is entitled to be registered as a voter and to vote in public elections. The operative phrase here is entitled to be registered. So you cannot, as an electoral management body, be taking decisions that has the potential to deprive citizens of their right to be registered as voters. This is the seriousness of the matter we are discussing here. We are in court not because we are against voter registration or the limited registration announced by the EC and scheduled for the 12th of September this year. We are in court with other political parties because the EC has decided to restrict the upcoming limited registration exercise to only 265 centers. And these centers are their 265 district offices in the 265 districts of Ghana.
They say now it's 267.
Okay. So what the EC is saying is that for the whole Ghana made up of 16 regions, the whole country made up of 275 constituencies, with an eligible voter registrant population of over 3 million, can only register in only 265 or 67 centers. That is what they are saying. And we are saying we are vehemently opposed to this unreasonable, unconscionable decision because it will disenfranchise hundreds and thousands of eligible voters. And that is why we are in court. And thank you for correcting Vincent. It is not only the NDC which is in court, and that is instructive and material. Because in times past, people have sought to create the impression that NDC for Yedua. We always find faults with the Electoral Commission. We don't like the EC. That is why we are always at their truth. But today, allies of the EC, and to some extent, and the MPP, like the LPG of Akuffo Addo, you have political parties that have been in existence for a long time, like the conventional People's Party, the CPP. You have Hassan Ayarige's APC. You have the GCPP, all joining the NDC to the Supreme Court. That we have had enough of the belligerence of the Jim Mensah Bosmanasare-led Electoral Commission. They are not interested in protecting the right to vote of citizens. And so we are going to court. And that is instructive. You see, the question of non-justiciability that my brother Vincent raised doesn't come in at all. I don't know why he imported that doctrine, that legal doctrine into this conversation. Because we are not talking about the sovereignty of a state or powers given a constitutional body which borders on discretion. You understand? Mm-hmm. Even if you are talking about discretion, there is Article 296 that governs the exercise of discretion. But more importantly, in this case, we are talking about the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, which has imposed a certain duty on the Electoral Commission. Which duty is being violated by the Commission? And therefore, under Article 1, 2, and 2 of the Constitution, the appropriate forum for such an action is none other than the Supreme Court.
I disagree.
However, there can be multiple causes of action flowing from a breach of law. Okay? And therefore, the fact that you may have a cause of action to the Supreme Court in a matter doesn't mean that you cannot have another cause of action in another forum. So some may decide to exercise that cause of action by way of a human rights action at the High Court under Article 33. Others may also come under Article 1, 2, and 2 of the Constitution. Because by restricting registration centers to their district offices, they are violating Article 42 and Article 45, 1E of the 1982 Constitution. And you cannot take violations of the Constitution to the High Court. The Supreme Court is the only forum mandated with the power and authority to interpret the Constitution. And Article 42, I've already told you, persons 18 years and above and of a sum are entitled to be registered. And 45(1)(e), as lawyer Martin Pebu has alluded to, says that the EC shall undertake programs to expand voter registration. What they have done is that they are constricting access to voter registration. And to that extent, they are violating the Constitution. The right forum is the Supreme Court. Now, aside this, Article 45, this time around not the E, but the A, enjoins the Electoral Commission to compile the register and to revise same as may be determined by law.
Yes.
So 45A says the Electoral Commission shall have the following functions. A, to compile the register of voters and revise it at such periods as shall be determined by law. You understand? Now, what is the law in Ghana that governs voter registration? It is called CI 91. And that law provides for where registration of voters should be done. The EC, in restricting registration centers to their district offices, are violating that law. And I'll read that law to you.
CI 91.
CI 91. Let's go to Regulation 2, Sub-Regulation 2B of CI 91. This is, you don't have to be a lawyer to understand this. It is common sense. It says, the commission, in designating a place as a registration center, the commission shall take into consideration, listen, the operative word here is shall. It is mandatory, compulsory. It is not optional. It is not permissive. The commission shall take into consideration, A, the suitability of the place for use as a polling station on election day. Question: have we ever in this country used EC district offices as polling stations on election day?
You should use the polling station then. That's suitable.
Listen.
Use the polling station.
It says the suitability of the place for use as polling stations on election day. We've never used EC district offices because they are not suitable for that. And we are never going to use EC district offices as polling stations. Polling stations are demarcated within communities where people live. You understand? So straight away, they have violated Regulation 2(a) of their own law which governs registration. Then look at the B. In designating a place as a registration center, the commission shall take into consideration the accessibility of the place to prospective applicants for registration. That is precisely the point lawyer Martin Pebu is making. If you restrict the registration center to your district office, which is about 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers from prospective registrants, some of whom cannot afford 1 square meal a day because of your reckless mismanagement of the economy. People who don't have jobs, you want them to cough up 100 cedis, 200 cedis? I know somebody who lives in Boko and he says, to go to the district center, I have to spend 150 cedis on transport fare. And if I don't have a passport or the Ghana card and I need to go with 2 guarantors, I have to spend the same amount of money on the guarantors. People don't have jobs in this country. They don't even have food to eat. You have imposed untold suffering on people and you are taking this senseless decision. What is the justification for this decision? So straight away, they have violated their own law. And you see, the title of the law is this: registration centers and electoral areas. Why do you have electoral areas there? So that, because the makers of the law, in their contemplation, thought that commonsensically registration on this scale will be done at the electoral area level. So that it will be in close proximity to the people. That is what we did under Farijan. That is what we did under Charlotte Osei. That is what we have even done under G. Mensah since she took office. Why must it be different now? Then you look at the regulation 30 you refer to. There is something there which, in reading the law, you didn't pay attention to that. In fact, it was Vincent who made reference to regulation 30. It says, the commission shall revise the register of voters annually. They didn't do it in 2021 and 2022 as you have established, showing clearly that this is an EC that has been acting illegally already. They have no respect for the law. They are laws unto themselves. They are only there to please their appointors. That's it. So they have already violated this law. But look at what follows that. The commission shall revise the register of voters annually and may revise the register of voters for each electoral area. Why didn't he say for each district? The register for each electoral area. So when you read this law as a whole, you see many references to registration on electoral area level in terms of the revision of the register. And that is what has been the practice. Look, he is reading to mean, okay, the sub-regulation 2 of regulation 30 to mean that the EC has the discretion to ignore this provision, but that is not what it says. When you people read, you should read well. Listen, let me read the sub-regulation 2 to you. The process for registration, as provided in these regulations, apply with necessary modifications as the commission shall direct for the revision of any register. So what shall the process for registration as provided in these regulations apply with the necessary modifications. So what is it what is the law talking about? It is the process for registration, not the centers of registration. Regulation, Massa, can you keep quiet to make my point?
Private regulation 9 says that it should be continuous. I refer to it.
Exactly. So let me make my point. So the law he's reading is wrong. What the discretion comes about the discretion here applies to the process. Okay. Now, when you come to regulation 2, Master, can you allow me to make my point? Can you allow me to make my point?
You would have your take in
responding to. We are not here for friendship. This is serious business. We are talking about the right to vote, and you want to reduce it to a friendship matter?
Mr. Gyamfi.
Regulation 2 says registration centers, and the operative word is shall. It's mandatory. You can't go to regulation 30 and read a provision which is discretionary there, which is talking about the process of registration, not the centers of registration, and say that that discretion there can allow the EC to change the centers of registration as provided mandatorily in law. Where did you learn that law from? Then, my brother, the question we are asking is that this is not the first time we are doing limited registration in Ghana. In fact, under G. Mensah, we did limited registration in 2019. Yes. And that year, if you recall, they took this same decision to restrict the registration centers to their district offices. Then a citizen called Umar Ayuba went to the Supreme Court to injunct them. So the exercise could not even take place on the 4th of June as advertised by the EC because of that application for injunction. Yes. The EC immediately, they were sued, knowing the right thing all along, now made a sudden U-turn. And they increased the number of registration centers from their district offices, 265 at the time, to 1,500. Alfred, this is common sense. Even if you are watching me and you are an MPP person, ask yourself this. If in 2019, when we were registering under 2 million people, G. Mensah was wise enough to do this registration at 1,500 centers, how much 2023? When we have a lot more people to register because of the backlog she, through her illegal conduct, has created by not revising the register in 2021 and 2022. A backlog of over 3 million people. Limited registration. What happened in 2019? Limited registration. You gazetted 1,500 centers, and that is what you did. And you are saying that in 2023, you will reduce the centers from 1,500 to 267. You know what they are trying to do? They are simply trying to rig the election. There is no commonsensical justification for what they are doing. It cannot be money because this EC by far is the most resource commission in the history of Ghana. Okay. Every money they have asked for, the government and parliament has given to them. So money is not the excuse, but they are doing it for 3 reasons, and that is where I will land. They are doing it because of voter suppression. they want to suppress votes to manipulate the election, because they know that the MPP are in office, they have the largest of the states. If we restrict registration centers to the district offices, they can take state funds, taxpayers' money, and transport their supporters to district offices, whereas opposition parties cannot. So let's give the MPP an undue advantage, so that whilst we are suppressing votes in NDC strongholds, the NPP will have an advantage. Game plan number 1. Game plan number 2, by restricting registration centers to their district offices, they can rig the election through gerrymandering. You know why? Because if they do the registration at the electoral area level like they have always done, political parties, as they always do, will recruit and deploy agents. And usually the agents are residents of those electoral areas. So when you come to register and you are not ordinarily resident at that electoral area, they challenge you. You can't go through the system. But by restricting the process to their district offices, you cannot have one agent who know all the people who live in this district. So, for marginal constituencies that the NDC has won, they can move people from Vincent Assefue's constituency, Tafo, Bantama. Then they bring them to the constituency. You cannot detect whether they live in that district or not, because your agent does not know all the people who live there. So they are able to do gerrymandering. Right. And what the chaos this will create if we allow it to go on. No, I'm wrapping up. The chaos this will create if we allow this to go on is that in 2024, you will have a lot of people, apart from the gerrymandering, apart from the voter suppression, you have a lot of people who may not be able to even locate their polling stations on election day. Our grandmothers, our grandfathers, the illiterates, they go to a district office, even if they are able to get the money to transport themselves. But have you even thought about the fact that, Alfred, I'm coming.
While you round up.
If these people even find the 100 cedis, the 80 cedis, the 50 cedis, the 200 cedis, with their guarantors and they go. Children, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, I wonder whether their parents will even follow them there. And they get to the district capital, join long queues, and it doesn't get to their turn. They don't get the opportunity to do it. Where would they sleep? How would they even come back and come again? You see, the only people defending this, Kodio has condemned it, Ghana has condemned it, all observers, all stakeholders, all political parties, except Vincent Assefue's MPP. You know why? Because they are the masterminds and the architect of this election rigging plot. They are the sole beneficiaries, and that is why he is citing inapplicable doctrines and principles of law and applying them wrongly to this matter, trying to defend the indefensible. So lastly, Alfred, what I would say, you spoke at length. Let me just conclude.
I'm looking at that.
What I would say is that I wanted to say something about what happened in the Supreme Court. You see, the Chief Justice must be called out. It is totally reprehensible for us to have a situation in this country where you file an injunction application in the Supreme Court and you are told that because the Chief Justice has traveled, you cannot be given a date for hearing. And that the Chief Justice has now made new rules that she alone is the one who can give dates for the hearing of injunction application. In what civilized country can this happen? In what civilized country? But in any case, the EC has been served an injunction application by 2 citizens from the High Court. And per their own decision in the Dofor matter, where they suspended their supervision of the NDC's presidential primaries because they said, per their operational practices, once they are served an injunction application, they cannot proceed with any activity. They are supposed to hold on with this activity.
So you expect that will apply?
Let me call on all citizens watching us, especially NDC sympathizers, NDC supporters, Ghanaians, the youth who desire to see a change in the administration of this country. Your vote, Alfred, let me conclude in just 5 seconds.
In 30 seconds.
Your vote is your power. Don't allow Mensa, Bosman Asare, Akuffo Addo, and the MPP to take that power from you. Notwithstanding the court processes we have filed, irrespective of whether the EC will do the right thing by expanding the centers, will do the right thing by respecting the injunction they have been served with, prepare. If you can, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, if they decide to breach the injunction and still go ahead, let us show them that we are ready to stand against their oppression. And we will go out and register and vote them out, because we have had enough of their misrule and their misgovernance.
GCPP.
PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.
Mame fa na say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there ose dem yopo